Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to World of Warships. As today we'll be doing an upgrade and commander build video on the Tier 10, the Gouden Leeuw, the heavy Tier 10 Dutch cruiser. And yesterday we did a Friday highlight. You can check that out. I'll tag it at the end of this video. You can see this full 21-point build commander in action. It was actually a seasoned commander. He's got some little perks on him. And we'll go over a lot of things, of course, with the ship. But first off, we talk about what type of heavy cruiser is the Gouden Leeuw. Well, the Gouden Leeuw is a mid-range cruiser. You have long-range cruisers, you have barreling cruisers, and then you have the mid-range. And for high tier, I typically say that's 12 to 15 kilometers, which checks out for two reasons particularly. Well, maybe you could argue three reasons with the Gouden Leeuw. One is her concealment. You can build back max conceal 10.3, which is like very cheeky how close you can get in and set up on a defensive position with the Gouden Leeuw. The other thing is your airstrike, which has a 13-kilometer range. So again, talking about that 10 to 15. So if you're able to get within that, let's say your concealment being 10.3 to 13, you're able to get drops off on maybe other cruisers or battleships sitting still, or maybe in smoke, so on and so forth. We demonstrated that yesterday's Friday highlight. The other thing is the artillery with these guns. Yeah, their main battery firing range, if you don't build into the range, is max 16.5 kilometers. And these guns aren't the most accurate either. We'll talk about their accuracy, but in general, they're kind of spraying and praying is sometimes what it feels like with these 283mm guns being 11-inch guns. So we'll look a little bit more into details as we go on. So ideally, I think she fits best in that mid-range. She doesn't brawl well in long range. You're just going to be upset about the guns or perhaps the lack of gun range. So that being said, let's talk about the armor layout, because one of the things it talks about with the Gouden Leeuw is that she has an icebreaker bow, which she does. It's a 40mm icebreaker bow, but the top half is 25mm. Now, I had forgotten when I had played this several days ago. I thought the bow was all 40mm. And so, as an example, I went up against a Montana, and he just sunk his 406s right through my nose, and I ate a ton of penetration damage, and I was like, oh yeah, I got that wrong, didn't I? So 25mm on the top, and then 40mm underneath, and then your stern plating is 25mm, so you're technically a little more tankier bow on, and then kiting, so to speak. And then your deck plating is 25 as well, but then the midsection is 30mm on your casemate armor, so that's a little more helpful in making you more high explosive resilient, of course, outside of your superstructure if you have destroyers farming you, this, that, and the other. And then on your armor belt, it's 40mm, then a 30mm, so actually a little bit stronger up on the top side of that, so you can bounce some larger caliber shells if you are angled properly. Take some things away, you can kind of begin to see what we have going on here, but your citadel, it is above water line citadel, so you do have to be mindful if you decide to go and turn out broadside. I think your maneuverability it's okay-ish, but it's a maneuverability of a heavy cruiser, so it's going to take you a little bit of time to get turned around, so try not to get caught broadside. Wisconsin will be staring at you. But you can kind of see there's some of this plating that's supposedly going to help perhaps deflect things away from the citadel, maybe back up into your superstructure, so there's a penetration rather than just a pin, but it just depends on the caliber of shell that's being fired upon your ship. The last thing we talk about is the gun mount armor. So you have 360mm on the front, 100 on the side, 150 to 150, and on the back it is 100. So the side and the rear gun mount armor is the most vulnerable. So I take the main battery mod 1 to help improve the survivability and of the main turrets, because it is definitely possible for them to be incapacitated. You know, a Salem could easily be cheeky, switch to the armor piercing Des Moines, and if you don't have your turrets full on, you know, it's because probably likely it's going to bounce off the top right, but getting through here on the sides and the back is very easy to have your main battery incapacitated. So moving along, let's go and talk about the modules. So these are 283mm guns. We've gone for a main battery reload build, so we've dropped the reload time down to 13.2 seconds, and I'm referring to the 6-slot build. And then our turret traverse time is 25 seconds. We could get that down even more so if we wanted to with the 3rd slot. We'll talk about it. Our high explosive shell damage is 3,900, and our AP shell damage is 7,600, and we'll talk about those a little more under the armament section. Hull-wise, we are running 51,900 hit points. We could also have this higher. I actually don't have a survivability expert on the commander. I'll talk about why that is. But we could actually boost this up further. So we'll look at that possibility when we look at the commander. Yeah, not too much more to say here outside of this is the 4th strongest AA cruiser in the game. So we've gone for some AA, particularly on our commander. Again, we'll talk about that. Main battery firing range, 16.5 kilometers. So the only way you're going to get this range out any further is with the gunfire control system mod 2. Talk about it here in just a minute. And then propulsion is 156,000 horsepower, 33.5 knots. We can push that up past 35 knots with the ceramic flag, so then we'll be sitting 35.2. So typically I like to try to run that. Going on to the upgrades, so really your ideal one to take here is the main armaments mod 1. This reduces the risk of your main battery becoming incapacitated by -20%, your main battery survivability plus 50%, and your main battery repair time -20%. Just because of showing you that side and rear gun mount armor, it's not strong and it can cause your guns to be incapacitated. So that's one of the main reasons why I've taken it. Now, maybe you could talk about auxiliary armaments mod 1, not for the secondary battery survivability, but the AA mount survivability being plus 100%, which I don't think that's that demanding to have here on the Golden Lion. I think you're okay to not run it. I mean, if for some reason you're having a lot of problem with your AA being incapacitated, then maybe you look at it. But I don't think it's needed because you have some matches, of course, where maybe you don't have carriers, right? But you can always guarantee you'll be using your main battery guns in a match unless you get Depth Strike right off the bat, right? So I think this is the most ideal one. You don't need magazine mod 1. Risk of ship's magazine detonating -70%. If you're playing ranked random clan battles, just take the Juliet Charlie combat signal. Like right now we have the mode shuffle, and I don't even take det flags unless I was taking a bunch of economic bonuses or something. I don't even run it in mode shuffle, but randoms, ranked and clan battles, I would be running that. Moving on to the 2nd slot, so let's give you the first option. So let's say you do not have the coal to buy a special upgrade. What would I recommend here? Well, there's 2 things we could look at with the Golden Lion. One is that you have full fire and flood duration, which I think fires is 60 seconds and floods is 40 seconds if I remember right. So you have the time, the length duration of a fire flood as similar to a battleship on the Golden Lion. So that was them kind of nerfing the ship a little bit in terms of her survivability. So you could look at taking damage control system mod 1, which would reduce the risk of catching fire -3%, risk of flooding -3%. Maybe you're like, I feel like my engine or my swinger is incapacitated. You could take that as well. I think honestly for myself, when I'm looking between the two, I might look at maybe damage control system mod 1, and I don't normally run that on cruisers, heavy cruisers here in the game. But if I was looking at one for 250,000 credits, I think I might lean towards this one a little bit more, unless I'm finding my steering gears or engine being knocked out regularly, then I'd switch to engine room protection. Otherwise, if you have the coal, you have 2 options with the special upgrades. One could be this Hydroacoustic Search mod 1, which is what we're running. This extends our action time by plus 20%, as we have a 5-kilometer hydro here, which right now has a 2-minute action time and a 2-minute cooldown time, and we can adjust those with combat signals as well, and even also with the commander. Because of playing more, if you're like that 10.3, you're sitting up on islands and stuff, because you often play a lot of defensive positioning with Golden Lion. She doesn't do so well out in the open, in my opinion. You know, subs, you can have a destroyer trying to get a fix on you. He's trying to get further out to dump torpedoes on you. So I've just felt more comfortable with having the Hydroacoustic Search mod 1. The other option would be the Defensive AA modification 1. This extends the action time by plus 20% and reduces the cooldown by -10%. As I said, the Golden Line has right now is the 4th best AA in the game as of the time of this video. And so you just be extending that action time out from 40 seconds to, what was it here, plus 20%, 48 seconds, yeah, if I did the math right in my head, possibly not. And then you get the cooldown time shorter. I don't really know if that's necessarily needed, because usually an aircraft carrier, his planes aren't in your AA aura more than the 40 seconds, typical. Now, I would say FDR would be an exception because the planes have so much hit points. He'll like fly into your AA, get a strike off, and then he has to wait for his cooldown before his next attack. That would probably be the only exception there. Otherwise, I don't really feel the need to run a defensive AA mod 1 over the hydroacoustic search mod 1. So I'll just click on this one and I'll show you what it looks like in the armory. So it's 17,000 coal. I'll go back here to customizations here. So it's 17,000 coal. If you have a coupon, it's 12,750 coal. I try to pick these up once an update as they reset. Every update they reset every 4 weeks roughly. So I would recommend trying to use the coupon if you're going to make the investment. So myself, I just prefer the hydro here on the Golden Line. Now, the third slot, there's 3 different options we could talk about here. You see, I've taken Aiming Systems Mod 1. This reduces our maximum main battery shell dispersion by -7%. So that's the main reason I take this upgrade. So I'll put it on the right side of the screen here. So we're having tighter vertical dispersion and tighter horizontal dispersion. Vertical and horizontal dispersion is reduced by, I don't know, I just have to guess off the top of my head, maybe it's between 6 and 14 meters, something like that, depending on the vertical and the horizontal. So we're getting slightly more accurate salvos. The ship already struggles with the accuracy, so I'm like, I would prefer to have a little bit more better accuracy. The Sigma is the same. Then of course you get a slight buff on your secondary battery and secondary battery shell dispersion. So I've taken that. The other thing to consider here, as I referenced earlier, would be the main battery mod 2, which would improve our main battery traverse speed by plus 15%. Right now it's 25 seconds. So we could get that down, and what I'm gonna do is actually just grab my calculator here. So it says 25 seconds. You get down to, whoop, that's too many zeros. 21.25 seconds with the main battery mod 1. If you decide to pick that up, so that'd be a little bit better. The other thing would be consider is actually your AA gun modification 1. Reducing your priority AA sector preparation time. So this is when you like click the O key in prioritizing AA off either your starboard or port side on your ship. So if I go to the AA defenses, priority sector reinforcement, action time 10 seconds, preparation time 10 seconds. I'm trying to remember if one of our skills on our commander helps with that. Maybe not. Oh yeah, well that's aircraft preparation time. And then if I look down here, I just can't always remember things off the top of my head. Not that I see a direct correlation there unless I'm blind, but it only right now it only takes 10 seconds for the preparation time. So your AA sector would be prioritized 85% buff. It's doing more damage off port or starboard, whatever side you prioritize it on. For 10 seconds, and then it has a 10-second cooldown, and then you can press the O key and priority sector reinforcement your anti-aircraft weaponry again. So if you did the AA guns modification, basically you're just going to shave that cooldown time from 10 seconds to 8 seconds. So that if you want to go a little more AA build, I could see the value in that. So I probably would kind of lean towards these two more than the main battery mod 2, but that's just me. I know some players can't stand slow battery turret traverse since these are 11-inch 283mm guns. So it's really up to you. You can try what you like, but I don't know if I'm like, it's 2 seconds. Does 2 seconds mean so much to me? If I'm want to be a nasty AA cruiser, then I'm like, those 2 seconds mean a lot to me. So maybe I would go for the AA guns mod 1. So something to consider here. Just kind of what is your preference? Now the fourth slot, because this is the Dutch cruisers with the high explosive bomb airstrike, we've gone for the airstrike modification 1. This reduces your airstrike armament reload time by -20%. It also gives your airstrike aircraft hit points, gives them more hit points, so plus 25%. And ironically, we also do more depth charge damage. That's another thing that they tied in here. So our depth charges do 6,612 rather than it probably be like I said, what was it said, plus 15%? I don't know, so maybe we were around 6K or 5,500, I don't know, something like that. So we do more depth charges, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But you may take this, of course, for your airstrike armament reload time. Now, before you build into it at all, your airstrike is 100 seconds reload time. I've taken a skill on the commander, and we've taken the skill upgrade here in the 4th slot to bring it down to 68, because I think what this would do if I hadn't upgraded anything on the commander, it'd bring it down from 100 to 80 seconds on our airstrike armament reload time. So we prioritize the airstrikes here in this case. So I think that's the best just because of how this cruiser plays. If I were to take a different upgrade, which I wouldn't here for the Golden Line, then I'd probably be looking at the propulsion mod 1, just that I'm accelerating faster. Time to reach full engine power is reduced by 50% when accelerating. You could talk about, well, you get full floods and full fire duration like battleships, so maybe you consider damage control system mod 2. Sure, if you're wanting to make your ship a little bit more tanky, but I just value having my airstrikes off cooldown faster. We can get away with more damage. We can do some more hurting of enemy ships, right? Maybe we kill one in that smoke screen. You know, you saw a lot of examples of how we use the airstrike in the Friday highlight video yesterday, which again will be linked at the end of this. So this is the best. So many things to talk about with this ship. The 5th is the concealment system mod 1. Building full conceal, we're 10.3 by sea, 7.5 by air. Which is just for a ship to have this caliber of guns and then to have that good of concealment is kind of an oddity here in the game. Typically, you would probably see our concealment be more like 12 kilometers or higher, but Wargaming was a little bit cheeky in how they developed the ship. So it's like you have heavy cruiser guns, like battle cruiser guns, with light cruiser concealment, right? So that's how Wargaming is a bit cheeky here. So we go for the concealment. I do recommend this one out of all the ones here. All right, for time's sake, let's continue. Then we have several options to talk about here with the 6th slot. Man, this is not going to be within a 30-minute video, guys. I'm so sorry. Main battery mod 3 is what I've taken now. Main battery reload time, -12%. Main battery traverse speed, -13%. So I can't remember off the top of my head. I think our reload time, I can see as an example with my calculator here, because it's hard to try to remember what to do in advance or on the fly. So part of my commander build, I have top grade gunner. I'll talk about that here in a minute. Because when I'm am within other cruisers, battleships, destroyers, I do like having a better DPM, damage per minute, with my armament. Now, as I said, the high explosive and armor piercing damage per minute is kind of mediocre compared to the other, let's say, current 45 tier 10 cruisers in the game. So it's not amazing, right? But it's just something, again, to reference here. We've got it running right now, and I'm open to switching it. Actually, I'm probably going to end up trying out something different here soon. The gunfire control system mod 2, if we want to extend the range out, I don't recommend this one just because your accuracy is rather blah. And if you're playing Golden Line beyond 16.5, I would be like, why, bro? You've got high explosive bomb airstrikes, so don't do it. And then the auxiliary armaments mod 2 would make this cruiser even more nasty with the anti-aircraft weaponry. So right now, our AA rating with our current build is 96. Okay, so if we were to take this bad boy, we'd probably be pushing it up to like 98 AA rating. I'm just guessing here, but it would definitely be 97, if not 98, maybe 99, I don't know. So you get a secondary battery reload time buff, but it's mainly the AA damage. So continuous AA damage plus 15%, damage from AA shell explosions plus 15%, number of explosions produced by AA defense salvos when the defensive AA fire consumable is active plus 2. Nasty AA. I might even spend the 3 million credits just to mount this to see what it looks like, because our AA defense right now, our continuous damage is 541. Our damage by shell explosion is 2,100. So let's just be real here for a minute, and let me compare it with the other great AA cruisers here in the game. So those would be particularly, I think Brisbane is the number one, which we have 99 AA rating on. So if I was to take a glance, continuous damage 533, damage by shell explosions 2,363, and that's not even having that 6 slot auxiliary armaments or mod 2, right? So we could be even more devastating with our AA. Minotaur, we've also done the main battery mod 3, and here you can see 543, 2,481, and then I didn't even tell you the damage. Apparently, wait, let me go back to Brisbane, and let me go back to, we left our Dutch boy behind. Come back, Dutch boy. Damage by shell explosions. Yeah, okay, sorry, I was just checking some in my head. And then Worcester would be another one. You can see it's not as strong. We have a defense rating at 92 because they've done a little bit more into the guns, but there'd be the ability to buff that up here as well. So there's several, so you can see how good, because I mean Brisbane is really fun. I like taking it for AA because you have a little bit more maneuverability and better concealment when you're dealing with enemy aircraft, and both the Minotaur and the Brisbane, I'm sorry, I'm going off on a slight tangent here. They have a 6.9 AA battery range, where the Golden Line is a 6 kilometer, right? So there's just all these different things to keep in mind here when we talk about the AA overall. But it's just like some really good AA. And then you talk about short range, long range AA. Apparently only with the Golden Line you get the medium range and long range. You don't have a short range AA aura. With like something like the Minotaur, you see you have the short range, the medium range, and the long range AA. So it's really the medium range there on Minnow is what's the best, and that's where you're going to see most of your damage output from. So it is very possible for us to talk about like making this even more of an AA build here. Okay, and then if we weren't done already, you have the more recent unique upgrade that World of Warships Wargaming added into the game, called Ship-to-Shore Radio. So improves the ship's tactical role by increasing the efficiency of airstrike attacks. Airstrike armament reload time, negative 25%. Number of airstrike flights, +1. Right now, we only get 2 available flights, and with both a reload time, shortening the reload time of the airstrikes on our commander, and also here on the 4 slot and upgrades, you know, we're already rocking that 48 seconds. Is that what I said it was? No, 68 seconds, excuse me, on the reload time. And we can take that down even further. So I'll just go ahead and click on this. So if I do the math in the meantime, we would be bringing our reload time down to 51 seconds. Now, if you're a newer player, you might not have access to the Research Bureau. I have a different video on that. I'll throw that at the end here. But I think you have to have, the standard is have to have 5 tier 10 ships before you get access to it. But anyhow, it cost us 19,200 Research Bureau points, and I'm just regrinding my Shimakaze line now because I have 7 resets stacked on it, so I'll have a lot. But this would be something to consider here on the Golden Line. I could see this working out in a very, you know, you could have a lot of fun with this, right? You could take a division with your buddies, and let's say you all have access to Research Bureau, and you each have 9 airstrikes, because there's a division of 3 of you, right? And you just all drop it on one ship and nuke them. Like, you see that in World Warships. That would be funny. I could see this working maybe decently well in the competitive, maybe like ranked, maybe like clan battles, right? So there is quite a value here in looking at this, and I would only really recommend this upgrade if you're decently accurate at dropping airstrikes. If you really struggle with it, then I'd say, hey, you know, play some, maybe you go into the co-op. It's a great place to just test and get the feel for things. I got really good at dropping airstrikes, more so in playing operations with tier 8 D7 Provincia. So just try some of that more if you're like considering, I don't know if I'm gonna make the investment because not very good at dropping airstrikes, okay? That would be another thing to consider here. So this is probably the best one to go for if you're really good at landing airstrikes at high tier randoms in the game in general. If you wanted a filthy AA build, I would say this one. If you're wanting to give your main battery a little bit more of a better reload time and increasing your damage per minute with your high explosive and AP shells, I would say main battery mod 3. Oh gosh, there's so much to talk about with this ship. Okay, I'm gonna blitzkrieg this till we get to the commander. Okay, high explosive shells. So these have a decent fire starting chance, 20%. So that's actually good setting fires between this and your airstrikes. I talked about that in the Friday highlight video yesterday. You penetrate 47 millimeter, initial velocity 890 meters a second. Armor piercing, these do the 7,600 damage. They also have the 890 meters a second travel time. Really good. You'll over penetrate a lot of light cruisers broadsides, so don't be surprised by that because of these being 11-inch 218 millimeter guns. So usually you're better off unless the light cruiser's angled, then maybe you get your Citadel. Unless you hit the water first and then the arms within the enemy ship's light cruiser Citadel. So don't be surprised if you get a lot of overpins with this on light cruisers. Otherwise, you know, you saw some examples yesterday of us getting Citadels on some of the heavy cruisers, and then battleships possible to get Citadels on. HE bomb airstrike, that's what makes this ship so unique and different. We've got the reload time to 68 seconds. Our aircraft HP is 2,750. You have 12 aircraft and an attacking flight, and again we've buffed the hit points of the AA or the aircraft, and then we have the 2 available flights again, so we could drop like 24 planes down, and then this is a range of 13 kilometers. There's 6 bombs per payload. Maximum bomb damage 6,800. You penetrate 37 millimeter. Chances of causing a fire on target 39%. So be mindful of what ships in the game have a really strong deck armor past 37 millimeter, because then you'll set a fire, but you won't do a lot of penetration damage. So like you're talking about your heavier battleships or CVs, you don't think like Kremlin or aircraft carriers that have a really thick flight deck. Then you have your depth charges. These are ship-based, which sucks because this ship isn't meant to go chasing submarines and dropping depth charges on them. This is a last resort. I do not encourage you to go out of your way to drop depth charges on the submarine unless you feel like it's actually safe to do so. But again, with one of the 4th upgrade slot, 6,612 damage they do now. A number of charges 2, bombs in a charge 4. Right? You only get a couple charges for your depth charges, and originally this line didn't even have depth charges, right? So Wargaming's like, okay, fine, here's 4 bombs and 1 charge, so you get 8 total. So yeah, keep that in mind, right? This isn't meant to go after submarines. Damage control party, pretty standard for a tier cruiser in the game. 5-second action time, 60-second cooldown time, unlimited number of charges. Repair party, HP per second, 259. With India Delta, we can bump that up to 311. I do recommend that for ranked random clan battles. And then action time 28 seconds, cooldown time 40 seconds. This is improved repair party cooldown time, like Massachusetts, Georgia, and I think other tech tree ships are beginning to get more of this 40-second cooldown time. So this is quite handy to have because of having full duration fires and floods. And you just can take a lot of damage if you're not mindful. With Superintendent, we get 4, otherwise you only have 3. Defensive AA fire, plus 50% continuous damage, plus 300% shell explosion damage, making you a very nasty AA ship for any tier 10 aircraft carrier or even a super CV to consider coming into your 6-kilometer aura, your AA range. This is action time 40 seconds, cooldown time 80 seconds, and we get 4. It'd be 3 if we did not have Superintendent. Header-acoustic search, 3.5 detection of torpedoes, 5-kilometer of detecting enemy ships. You do spot submarines, maximum depth 2 kilometers with the submarine mod 1, or the hydroacoustic search mod 1 in the 2nd slot, We've boosted the action time from 100 seconds to 120 seconds. Our cooldown time is 120 seconds. And again, we get 4 with Superintendent, where we are, not Superintendent. Is it called Superintendent? I'm saying that now. Whether, if we didn't have it, it would be 3. Combat signals to run. I typically run November Foxtrot here for the Golden Line. So now 60 to 57, 40 to 38, 80 to 76, 120 to 114. I also take the Sierra Bravo. This is going to shorten our cooldown time on both our hydroacoustic search and our defensive AA. So now you see 68.4, and you see a boost. Sorry, it's a boost to your action time of your hydroacoustic search. I'm just trying to be fast now because I've taken so long in this video. From 120 to 132 seconds. Your cooldown time is still 114 seconds. So I do run those. Other things you can look at running here. It will just, your mileage will vary. We can buff our AA damage more, which why not? So then now just with that combat signal alone, you see 96 and 97, and our continuous damage and our damage by shell explosions increase. And then damage caused a ramming enemy plus 50%, damage received when ramming an enemy negative 20%, last ditch effort, use the big torpedo, right? And then what I look at doing is I typically then run the India Yankee. A fire extinguishing time negative 20% since you get full duration fires. This is my typical combat signal setup here. Now you could also look at dropping these two and then say I want to increase the fire chance of my high explosive shells from 20 to 22%. That is another possibility to do here. Up to you. Commander, I'll try to be as short as possible, but still give you guys good info. This is my 21-point build that I have here. This is a seasoned commander. So now I actually have to show you the said seasoned commander. I'm pretty sure this one comes from the armory. There's so much to remember in this game that I don't want to be wrong, so let me just double check. Yeah, they're both right here. So the one I'm running on him is 35,000 coal, and then you have a copy paste. They have the same enhanced skills for 1,500 doubloons. So I have both of them. I run the one here because of his 2 enhanced skills. So 1-point commander, take grease the gears, main body traverse speed plus 15%. So this probably gets us further away from 30 seconds or something like that, I reckoned. So I do recommend grease the gears on the main battery. What you've seen we've done here with a 3-point commander is we've taken the focus fire training. The big difference with this skill is that compared to a standard Dutch commander is that we get a plus 35% on our party sector reinforcement versus the plus 25. So normally when you take this skill, you would see your AA defense here, it would say the party sector reinforcement plus 75%, where we get an additional 10%, 25 to the 35%, making us plus 85 or 85% total on the priority sector reinforcement. So we're quite deadly to deal with. Otherwise, you just be 50% priority sector reinforcement. So making our AA even stronger when we're reinforcing our AA, as it increases our continuous damage and deals instantaneous damage after priority sector is selected. So they keep changing this skill slightly. This is the skill that reduces our airstrike armament reload time to get it from 80 seconds to 68 seconds. And then you see damage caused with a priority sector activated plus 1.5. We get a number of shell explosions and AA salvos plus 1, and aircraft preparation time negative 10%. So we get some additional flak as well. 6-point commander, I do adrenaline rush. So as I take damage, each 1% of HP loss, my main battery is reloading faster, my airstrike is reloading faster, right? So now it's like 68, 67, 66, 64 seconds reloading faster. Slight secondary buff and the reload time, and then we get a continuous AA damage increase plus 0.2%. And then for a 10-point commander, I might decide to go ahead and go with Concealment Expert. Let's go ahead and get my concealment down to that beautiful 10.3 kilometers here on the Golden Line. So that's what I would do with a 10-point commander build first. And then after that, you can decide how you want to go. Probably what I would recommend you is with 13-point commander, go ahead and pick up Superintendent, get that 4th Hydro, 4th Defensive A, and 4th Repair Party, because of those heals again, right? They're improved heals. They have a cooldown time with the November Foxtrot, 38 seconds, so you'll burn through your heals actually quite fast, and you saw that in yesterday's video where we got, I think, both the Dreadnought and Fireproof. So having that 4th heal is really valuable, as well as having Hydro. Very good to have regardless. So I'd recommend that as a 13-point build. And then you could be like, after that, up to you. With what I've done, do you want to go for a 17-point build with the A Defense and ASW Expert, or are you wanting to go for the top grade gunner first? Or you don't even have to do what I'm doing, but I'm just showing you what I'm doing. So let's say you want more AA. So you've 17-point commander, you want the A Defense and ASW Expert. Your airstrike depth charge damage plus 15%, but you don't have airstrike depth charge damage, you just have depth charge damage plus 15%. So that's why you're seeing the 6,600 something. Otherwise, it's probably much closer to 3 or 4 per depth charge off the top of my head. Arctis A damage plus 25%, our damage from AA shell explosions plus 25%. And the other thing with this skill, and why it's so bloody good, this was something not too long ago Wargaming adjusted, was that your ship consumables preparation reload time is negative 50%. So the whole time your AA is active on enemy aircraft, a spotter plane, someone drops a depth charge plane on you, they're just helping you get your consumables off cooldown time that much faster, reducing it by 50%. So, then your heal could be like 20 seconds cooldown time, right? If your AA is active that whole entire time. So there's definitely a value in this skill in helping complement your consumable layout here on the ship. Another reason why I like running this on the Brisbane and the Minotaur as an example. And then top grade gunner, secondary battery load time, negative 10%. The can be activated effect is if there's an enemy ship within your standard detectability range, your main battery reload time will be reduced by negative 8%. So right now, our reload time of our main battery guns is 13.2. And you saw the skill get activated multiple times throughout the video that I showed you yesterday. So that would mean we get down to a 12.14 second reload time without Adrenaline Rush kicking in as an example. So again, it's kind of why I've gone for that combination of the top grade gunner also with the main battery mod 3. Now other builds, because I'm definitely about to end this video, you could do here. The other enhanced skill we haven't talked about is the Demolition Expert. So this is something definitely worth looking at. This would be plus 1.5% chances of causing main battery HE shells causing a fire on a target. So then if we look at our artillery, it would be pushing up that 20% even higher. So if it's that 20%, then what, 21.5? Is that what they're saying here, right? And then explosion of radius of all munitions except for depth charges when attacking submarines, plus 15%. So then you're doing more of a damage radius has been extended if you're firing at a submarine on the surface of the water. That's something else they've not too long ago added in with Demolition Expert. So that'd be a 2-point skill. So, for example, what I would, if you were wanting to take Demolition Expert, then I'd probably say give up Top Grade Gunner. Take 2 points here into Demolition Expert. And then if you had the other 2 points, I would say it could be Priority Target. You could take your remaining 2 points, break it between Gun Feeder. So you can cycle between your AP and high explosives. Sometimes I very much do want this on the Golden Line. For example, the beginning of the clip yesterday where I heard it out to Des Moines, it would have been nicer to just got to the armor piercing faster. And then you could go with Incoming Fire Alert or The Last Stand. You could switch between those two. The other thing you could do, give up Top Grade Gunner, go ahead and pick up Survivability Expert. That's still something on my mind I've considered because it would just be nice to have a larger survivability in terms of our hit points. Basically, what this does, Survivability Experts plus 450 per ship tier. So it'd be 4,500 additional hit points. On top of the 51,900 hit points, we'd have 56,400 hit points, meaning we're even harder to kill. So that's something, again, I would look at my top grade gunner skill and dropping it. and then that would leave me 1 point, and then I'd probably go ahead and pick up the gun feeder. To be honest with you, sitting here talking with you in the video now, if I was to do a different build, I would give up top grade gunner, pick up survivability expert, and then go for gun feeder. That's even something I'm just attempted to straight up do right now as an example, just because, yeah, the guns are nice, but they're not amazing. So there can be an extent where it can be too focused on building too much into the guns, where it's like, you know, I probably wouldn't mind that additional 4,500 hit points to live a little bit longer, and then also get the benefit of switching between my AP and high explosive shells a little bit faster. So give me a moment to think here, and then we'll end the video. Okay guys, I'm back. So basically why I took the top grade gunner was because I run this ship on my D7 Provincia, and I run that ship a lot in ops, so I like having the top grade gunner there. So that's the main reason why I think I wanted to keep with this skill for the Golden Line, as I just got him up to 21 points like within a week or a couple of days ago. So if I'm being honest with you, my preferred build to do here on the Golden Line would be take the hit, and I'm actually going to do survivability. I'll do this. Just because it makes a lot of sense, and also when you're playing within a defensive position at 10.3 away, like, I mean, come on, like, it's just, you're gonna see that more handily, and I can actually see if that is just, yeah, it's just literally 1.5%. You're gonna see subs, you're gonna see destroyers popping up in front of you, and just if you have armor piercing loaded, it would be great to just kind of switch from that if you know they're around, to the high explosive. So this is the build I'm actually going to end up running here on the Golden Line. So this would be the recommended build I would go for overall. And again, you could give up these two, go for top grade gunner, or you could give up this these two and go for demolition expert, get priority target, or just split the skill out between some of these one pointers here. So alas, I'm so sorry guys, this video was so much longer than anticipated. There's so much to talk about with this ship because of the airstrike, and also that this is a very AA capable cruiser. So it's a very unique, very different ship in the game. Please use the timestamps below if you need to hop back and forth into different places, or just come back to the video if you need to take a break and go do something else. So that being said, thanks for watching the video today. If you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. And until next time, take care.